Next, did this decision promote collaborative effort among key stakeholders? Yes, it did. We are seeing peers, students, and Mrs. Stevens' supervisor involved in this process. Also, the principal is collaborating with Mrs. Stevens by providing her with new strategies to improve her areas of need. Also, hopefully during the walkthroughs and observations and things like that he's going to be using to evaluate her in these 2 to 3 weeks. Hopefully he's giving actionable feedback for her to work upon. Next, inspire staff to pursue new creative approaches for improving schools and promoting student learning. Ultimately, while Mrs. Stevens was provided new approaches in the forms of strategies to improve her areas of need, this may not have inspired her, but the fact that she was heard throughout this process when she reacted negatively to her evaluation, I think will inspire her more than any strategy, anything the principal could have said in that situation. The fact that she gets a say in this is big, and the fact that the principal is kind of giving her a second chance and looking at more information will help. Plus the peer observations, while it's a new concept to that school, because it wasn't previously mentioned, have been known to improve both the observer and the teacher being observed. And that's huge. That's a really good thing for all teachers involved, including Mrs. Stevens. Next, reflect on past experiences to examine, refine, and strengthen leadership platform that influences decisions. Honestly, I've never been close to not being renewed. I have had bad valuations, in all honesty, and bad observations, actually, is what I meant to say. But honestly, I've never been close to not being renewed. That said, I do know the difference between being poorly evaluated and being evaluated properly. If all you use is observations, formal observations, informal, and you're not constantly being transparent and building that rapport and open line of communication with the teacher, you don't have enough evidence and information to make an informed decision. I think a principal needs to provide actionable feedback, utilize student surveys, utilize peer observations to make a sound decision. That said, he didn't ever address Mrs. Stevens' areas of need before this evaluation process. And then it's the deadline, and he's like, I got to turn this in. But she is not properly supervised, as she stated before. Hopefully, through this decision made in the case study, the principal will change his evaluation methods and the teachers will feel more supported in their areas of need in the future. The evaluation process needs to be a process of growth, not of seeing what a teacher is doing wrong necessarily. And lastly, reflection. This assignment significantly impacted my future as a school leader. Mrs. Stevens needs to support herself and possibly a family. We don't know, but this is big. This is literally someone's lifestyle that a principal is changing. There needs to be enough information and data collected to make that kind of a decision. So it showed me that I shouldn't jump to conclusions or decisions based on small pieces of information. If the principal hasn't been in that classroom a lot and doesn't know Mrs. Stevens well enough to make that decision, that is not acceptable leadership. And I hope to make decisions like that based on a lot of information and a lot of conversations and a lot of actionable feedback on my part, and that I'm making sure I'm doing the best I can to support the teachers in my building. This really goes into it as evaluation, supervision, and everything needs to be a chance for teachers to grow and improve. And while they're growing and improving, I should be growing and improving my methods as well. I hope that I would be able to help a teacher like Mrs. Stevens earlier in the year or even previous years before it even got to this point of me just walking into her classroom a few times and thinking she's insufficient in her teaching. This class has truly improved my learning on this subject, and I feel really prepared to supervise and evaluate school personnel. I've enjoyed this class, and I really appreciate just the insight that I've gathered and the depth that we have learned about evaluations, feedback, supervision, forms of professional development, everything that we need to properly grow teachers to their fullest potential, and that will ultimately lead to student success if we are focusing on teacher improvement and how they can better engage students. Thank you. And lastly, we have the references that I use to make this informed decision and also justify some of my opinions. Thank you.